If you often feel tired, you are not alone. A US survey found that a staggering 65% of Americans rarely wake up feeling rested and energized. But for most of us, the problem isn't quantity of sleep, but rather the quality of sleep that is causing this issue. Now, the simple sleep trick is this item right here, but I'm just going to leave this beside this Baby Yoda for now. Before we get into this item, let me talk a little bit about the categories of sleep stages. So I think in North America during high school, most of us learn about the sleep stages, but I'm just gonna give everyone a quick overview. The first 3 stages are non-REM sleep, essentially non-rapid eye movement sleep. And sometimes people call these 4 stages, but basically they are called slow wave due to the low frequency of brain waves shown on the electroencephalogram or EEG. During these stages, the phenomenon known as sleepwalking occurs during the slow wave stages of non-REM sleep, and it is also thought that this is where we consolidate all of our short-term declarative memories. The individual goes back in reverse order back through the non-REM sleep stages to the first REM stage, and that lasts about 10 minutes the first time, and in subsequent REM stages it lasts longer and longer. And the difference here is that it is rapid eye movement, and this is where the skeletal muscles are paralyzed except for our eyeball movement and the diaphragm for breathing, and that's why it's called rapid eye movement. And our brain is super active during this time, so it's commonly referred to as paradoxical REM sleep and is characterized by rapid eye movement, increased autonomic activity, and dreaming consolidation of procedural memories also occur during REM. So for more info, you can pause the video here. We're gonna continue on. All you need to know is that there are 2 super important stages that we need, and it is the last stage of non-REM sleep and REM sleep. And the reason why these are super important is the non-REM sleep stage 3, or some people call it stage 4, it helps with physical and mental restoration. I like to think of this stage as our motivation charger for the next day. So we deplete our motivation throughout the day, and then for the next day, this helps us charge that up so that we can use it again the day after. I go into detail about motivation in a past video where I talk about how I was able to study and also work full-time. But basically every day we have a finite amount of motivation, and the amount that we have is based on how much it gets charged up through non-REM sleep. Moving on to REM sleep. REM sleep is super important because this is what we use for cognitive and emotional processing. It also helps consolidate our procedural memory and new experiences that we had throughout the day. So I like to think of this as our anxiety manager. So this is the problem. Most adults don't get enough deep sleep or REM sleep. The amount that we're supposed to get is around 1 to 1.5 hours for non-REM sleep, so that accounts for 20% of our sleep. And for REM sleep, we're supposed to get about 25%, which is around 1.5 to 2 hours. There could be a number of reasons why we don't get enough. Maybe we drank alcohol the night before, maybe we were working late the night before, maybe we have anxiety, or we're using our phones too long before we fall asleep. These things happen, but there is one thing that will guarantee us to have low quality of sleep, and that is breathing. Specifically, breathing through the mouth. So breathing through the mouth is bad for a number of reasons. Number 1, mouth breathing can lead to dry mouth and throat because the inhaled air doesn't have natural humidification. And this dryness can be uncomfortable, which can contribute to a sore throat or a dry cough. We also get reduced oxygenation through breathing through our mouth because it's less efficient. We also have disrupted sleep. And for a majority of people, actually, they can actually have sleep apnea and snoring through mouth breathing because sometimes we get obstructed through our mouth and our mouth is super relaxed and it blocks our airwaves. And this actually causes sleep apnea for a number of people. According to survey study, 71% of people actually breathe through the mouth when they fall asleep. And the most common signs of mouth breathing is being awakened by nighttime congestion, waking with a dry mouth, as well as snoring. So all of these are signs that potentially you breathe through the mouth. These are all the issues with mouth breathing and it leading to low quality of sleep. But how do we solve this issue? Well, it turns out we already have solved it, and it's by nasal breathing throughout the day. And nasal breathing solves all of those issues that we mentioned above that happened with mouth breathing. So we breathe through our nose every single day, yet at nighttime, we're not able to control that because we're asleep. And this is where this item comes in. All right, I'm not gonna put it on right now, but This is a nasal mask, and I kind of lied a little bit. It actually needs to be hooked up to a CPAP machine to help us breathe through our nose. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys quickly here what I do. So basically, this is my chamber. It's already got some distilled water in it, but basically I have these jugs over here that have distilled water, and then I pour it in here, and I pour it to about the in between this min and max line here. Pretty simple. It has to be distilled water. Apparently it's to help with your breathing, and you can't use normal water for this. It's very bad if you use normal water. So they have a label to use distilled water. I push this in, and pretty much it is good to go. Now, there are some settings here in which you can like set for the amount of pressure. Oh, let's drop something. Now, there's some settings over here. I have this touch screen here, which allows you to set the settings. If you're interested in me going to detail about the settings, please comment below. But basically, I have all of the settings set up. It's super simple. You just need to set it up once. And now all that is remaining is for me to put it on like this. All right, I know I look pretty crazy, but as soon as I start breathing through it, it already automatically starts. And I am like literally forcing myself to breathe right now to like talk through my mouth. But like basically this is what I was talking about with like the pressurized air. It's like really hard to breathe through your mouth when you have this like thing going through your nose with the pressurized air. So it's really difficult. So this is the machine, and basically it is on right now, and it is super, super quiet. So you have the benefit of that as well. And this is the airstream. Basically when you have it on, right now you can hear this airstream. When you have it on, essentially you don't hear anymore. Oh, also when you don't have it on your face, it automatically turns off. So you have that benefit as well. And I find it so much better than having to wear that like full facial mask. And even though it does still kind of look pretty crazy, at least it's better than you having to wear this like scary medical mask. Yeah, still looks stupid, but you still get a lot better quality of sleep. So let me go into a bit of detail. How does it do this? So a nasal mask and a CPAP continuous positive airway pressure machine are components of a therapy called CPAP therapy, which is usually used to treat people with sleep apnea. However, I believe it should help anybody who typically breathes through their mouth. A CPAP machine is a medical device that generates a continuous stream of pressurized air. Essentially, this pressure is what prevents us from breathing through our mouth. And it works very well. And it's super interesting because it also has, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it also has these holes here. Basically, when you are breathing in, it delivers this pressurized air. But when you're breathing out, these little small holes here expel out all of the CO2. And the reason why I like this a lot is because previously I thought you had to wear this like big facial mask, but now they have these like nasal masks that work extremely well. And you can essentially, so the one that I have here is medium sized, but you can get the nasal mask to fit whatever size that you have, small, medium, or large. Previously, I used small, but then I realized with medium, it delivers the air a little bit better. So now I switched to the medium size. And essentially this nasal mask is what I use to allow myself to breathe through my nose throughout the night. But basically these things here, they go into your nose and it effectively creates this seal, and this is what creates that pressure. Something else that's also super nice is I have the AirSense 11. For those with sleep apnea and snoring, this is super helpful because it prevents you from snoring as well. And the machine is super quiet. So the direct result is not only is it helpful for you, but it can also be helpful for like your partner or other people who are sleeping beside you because you're not snoring and it's not as loud for them. Now, there's a couple of other things that I use as well to help me keep track of things, but these are completely optional. So for my CPAP machine, it does come with an app that shows me basically how well I was using the machine the night before. So last night I got 7 hours and 45 minutes of usage hours, so not bad. I got a good mask seal, so that means there wasn't any like air leakage from my nasal mask. 2.5 events per hour. What that means is that if you're not breathing for longer than 10 seconds, then it is logged as an event. I remember when I did my sleep study, I must have had like 50 or 60 events happening per hour. So I was literally not breathing for like 10 seconds and I was having like 50 or 60 of these events per hour. Like, it's amazing how I literally did not die because of this. I took my mask off once last night. I think it was just like correct the mask, and basically I had a total score of 100. And basically this app will allow you to see what your sleep score is throughout the day. Something that's super annoying is that I have like 2 CPAP machines and you can only link one with your account. So I can only see one of these scores, but that's totally fine. I usually just check to make sure that everything is going okay. But yeah, this sort of gives me an idea of how well I'm doing in terms of my sleep CPAP machine fit. Now, the second thing I use is my Apple Watch. And this is what actually led me to use a CPAP machine, because when I first started using this, I realized my sleep quality was absolutely terrible. Just going into my phone, if you look at how my sleep quality was last year, I was literally getting 12 minutes of deep sleep, 24 hours of REM sleep on average in the month of January. And I was also awake during multiple times throughout the night. That's why my average time awake was over 1 hour. And one other indicator that I found is key is that I was noticing that I was getting up to pee a lot when I wasn't using my CPAP machine. And if you're getting up to pee a lot, it's usually an indicator that you're not getting into your late stage non-REM sleep and your REM sleep. Because in your REM sleep, all of your skeletal muscles are supposed to be shut down and relaxed, and you're not supposed to actually have to go to pee. So this actually also prevented me from having to go to the bathroom multiple times after I started using the CPAP machine. And basically, as you go through the months, my average time awake was already getting a lot better. So as I move along the months here, February was when I started to begin to use the machine and it was starting to get a lot better. And then I started moving towards 53 minutes of average deep sleep, as well as over an hour and 30 minutes of average REM sleep. And as I moved on slowly more and more, my average time awake also decreased as well. So I'm getting still less than the average person's, because I'm still averaging maybe around like 1 hour at most for my average deep sleep and getting above an hour and 30 for REM sleep. So about sort of the lower ends of that 20 and 25% I was mentioning earlier. But still, this is a lot better. Like, at least I am not dying. A part of me is super happy that I was able to figure this out. And another part of me thinks that I probably could have gone to Harvard if I figured this out in high school. Because think about it, I literally was operating off of 11 minutes of deep sleep on most nights and less than an hour of REM sleep. So all that consolidation of memory, emotional processing, boosting up my motivation, I was getting none of that. And to couple that off, I also have ADHD, so my motivation is low anyways. And I am amazed I managed to survive college throughout all of this. There's obviously other ways that can help with your breathing. You don't have to commit to having a CPAP machine with this nasal mask right away, because it does cost quite a bit if you're not able to cover it through medical insurance. I think it costs about $1,500 if you don't have the insurance for this. But there's other ways to help with your breathing. So you could use tape for your mouth so that it prevents you from breathing through your mouth. Or you can use nasal strips to help with your nose breathing. I've tried both of these things and I think they both offer some benefit so that it can help you breathe through your nose. That reminds me, for the Apple Watch, it also shows you the amount of blood oxygen that you have. So when I did my sleep study, they realized I had like dangerously low blood oxygen levels of like around like 85%. Something crazy like that. And typically for like most people, you're supposed to have like above 95% at all times. And I was also able to detect this on my Apple Watch through its like blood oxygen sensor. So that was one other thing that was an indicator for me that this was like a serious issue. One thing you guys can do is you guys can go and apply for a sleep study, but I do recommend buying the CPAP machine directly through the manufacturer instead of going through the sleep study, because they're gonna ask you to pay for all these like filters or things like that, whereas you can just like set up all of the pressure settings and do all of those filter or mask replacements yourself, and it's gonna be way cheaper. I got this for $1,500, but if you go through the sleep study route where they force you to buy it through them, they're gonna make you pay like $3,000 for it, which is pretty crazy. If you guys do have some questions about the process of going through the sleep study as well as getting the CPAP machine, make sure to comment below.